everybody's making a lot of arguments that the world is coming to an end, that interest rates are going to skyrocket, the stock market's going to crash, the dollar will fall out of bed. We have long-term entitlement and deficit problems, which actually are improving, and that Russia is going to go to war with Ukraine. And quite frankly, when you look at what the markets are doing right now, they're saying the exact opposite. Gold has fallen $35 in 3 days. Stocks are hitting a succession of new all-time highs. Interest rates are quiescent. The dollar is mostly strengthening against key foreign currencies. I think the market's telling us that, at least for now, the world is fine and that there's nothing major on the horizon.
And you look like you got a tan over Memorial Day, so it's at least all right with you, Ron. But Peter, if the world is pretty okay, why do we have low volume and why is everyone else buying U.S. Treasuries?
Well, first of all, I never argue that the world is coming to an end. In fact, I don't even think America is coming to an end, but I do think the party in America is coming to an end. And I take exception to Ron's comment that the dollar is strengthening. It's not. I mean, take a look at where the dollar index is. It hasn't been strengthening, and that says a lot about the validity of this so-called economic recovery. If we really had an economic recovery, then the dollar would be strengthening. But we just printed a negative 1% for the first quarter, and that's not because of the weather. And the only reason it wasn't a much bigger negative number is because Americans were forced to spend a lot more of their diminishing paychecks on their electric bills, on their heating bills, and on health care. If it wasn't for that, it would have been a much bigger negative. And of course, I don't believe for a second that inflation is only running at an annualized rate of 1.3%. I think we have a lot more inflation than that. And so I think the U.S. economy is a lot sicker than Ron and a lot of other people believe.
Well, it's an interesting point that weather had nothing to do with the weakness in GDP, and yet, as Peter just said, people paid more for electricity. They paid more for electricity because they were heating their homes. So clearly, you can't have both those thoughts working at the same time. With respect to,
but that actually helped the GDP, and part of the reason is electricity prices went up. A lot of Americans were wearing sweaters because they couldn't afford to heat their homes.
Well, I mean, listen, inflation, if you look at bond markets around the world, they are pricing in deflation. If you look at every bond market in the world, the German Bund is yielding 1.3%. U.S. Treasuries are at 2.4%. You can't tell me that the bond market is getting the inflation picture wrong. The stock market's getting
we're not going to be lucky enough
item,
to get
Peter,
deflation.
Your favorite item
is
inflation. Gold. Why is gold falling?
The reason that bonds are artificially low is you've got all these central banks buying them.
No, you have
and you also have
buying
some
them
speculators that are buying them too.
No.
But I think this is wrong. Just like you had people buying up subprime mortgages in 2006 and 2007. They got burned badly on those trades. And I think the people who think that the economy is recovering and that we're not going to have inflation and therefore they're buying bonds, they're going to lose a lot of money on that trade.